And welcome back to the Quirk Creation Series, back again in demand. And this one also came from my personal list, so let's just get to it. And what is the quirk of Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach? Now, this I actually thought was a pretty simple one to do. Unlike with the Zanpakuto videos, where I actually have to look at the person's personality and maybe a little bit of their fighting abilities, all that, and then try to create a Zanpakuto from that, which is not always easy. With the Quirk series, I can just take something from their series and kind of mold it into a quirk that represents them. Like, for example, with Luffy, when we did Luffy, obviously trying to turn the Gomu Gomu no Mi into a quirk was more or less the idea. With Ichigo, I felt it was pretty obvious. We had to figure out a way to turn Zangetsu into a quirk. I think it's going to actually be pretty clear with a lot of the Shinigami when we get around to them in the Bleach series. When we do quirks for them, is that we have to figure out a way to either turn their Zanpakuto into a quirk they'd use, or their the ability, or something that is akin to them. Like, I have a very specific idea for Zoraki's quirk, and that's because it's a quirk I'm actually probably going to design for myself. Although I'll probably, I have a couple ideas for a quirk when I do insert myself into the My Hero World What If. So we'll wait for that. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, the idea, first off, his quirk's name would actually be Getsuga Tensho. It would be the name of his quirk. Why? Well, his hero name is Zangetsu. Now, what the quirk would do is basically, by using his life force, he manifests the Shikai, not the Bankai. And we're going to only look at base Zangetsu here. We're not, original, not even original. The first Zangetsu he had. Although I do like the full bring Zangetsu he had. It looked a bit more like a giant scimitar. We'll look at that one. Because when he went to the Bankai, the awakened version of his quirk, then we'll understand why I go with that. But anyway, it'd be very difficult for me to use his other quirk, his swords, his true Shikai, just because of the nature of that, and then trying to mold that doesn't work. At least not effectively. But there's another way we can go about that. I just realized that we can include. Regardless, by basically focusing his literal life force and energy, which he would have an abundant supply of, he can manifest Zangetsu. He can manifest the sword. Now, what the sword would do is, it's a sword. It's very powerful. It is derived from his life force and his very being and energy. And it could release the Getsuga Tensho attack. It's something that Ichigo probably wouldn't initially think of. It would be like what happened with Renji and Urahara, where he does it instinctively and then realizes he has this ability. He very well could also manifest Zangetsu actually into the dual blade one if he tried. That would take more finite control, and it probably would deal with more him understanding himself, obviously. And he would notice that with one blade, the attack is more powerful but a little slower, and the other's faster but weaker. So then Getsuga Jujitsu. Dude, my God, I hate when I have to try to pronounce it. Jujitsu. Give me 1 second here, because it's bugging the absolute crap out of me. The pronunciation. I had the same problem with Aizen's. It's Kyoka Soigetsu. I kept wanting to say Kyokya or something like that. It's Kokyo. Kyoka Soigetsu is Aizen's Zanpakuto. Getsuga, where is it? Come on, where's that? Luckily I have the wiki always saved on my bookmarked in my tabs. So let's see here. Where is that technique's name? Come on, get away ads. I hate these things. Let's see here. Now Getsuga Tensho, and then Getsuga Jujisho. Getsuga Jujisho. Oh man. Anyway, he basically creates like a cross like Getsuga Tensho with both blades. Now, the drawback of this would also be the drawback of the awakened version of it, is that using your own life force could risk killing you. I actually like it as something similar to like maybe Momo or something like that, who is not using her life force so much as using her calories and body fat, but like you'll tire yourself out. Normally, you'll probably just pass out. And Ichigo probably finds that when he uses too much of his energy, he passes out. And he probably has to eat a lot. He probably has to rest to really get his energy back up. And then you can increase your life force too. And Ichigo's got probably a very large amount of life force, just like anyone, like a large amount of Ryatsu he has. But if you were to push yourself past your limit, like a shonen protagonist would, well, you would run the risk of killing yourself straight out. And now I will not say that Ichigo has like Shoppo or anything like that. No, those are secondary abilities that he gained as a Shinigami. We're talking about just his quirk. Granted, you might, in fact, if anything, I could see that at least the Shikai slowing him down a little bit. In fact, if he wants speed, he might try to go for the dual wielding style a bit more after practicing with it. And maybe he can just increase his speed naturally with training, obviously. But then his awakened quirk, his evolved quirk, if you will, would be the full bring Bankai version of it. I always, that's my favorite version of his Bankai. I mean, the original Bankai is good. I even have the sword itself, a replica of it sitting right next to me here. But the original was great, and I didn't mind. We didn't see much of it, but I didn't mind the true Bankai he had. But honestly, I really dug that slightly more jagged, like angry looking, even longer version of his Bankai. That was a really cool looking. I like that design of the Bankai. It was subtle, but it had like a little hook at the. It was kind of cool, really cool. So that's the version I would go for his Bankai. And just like with before in the Shikai, he can still use his life force. It's a very durable blade, but now you would actually see the speed thing come into practice. Like his physicality hasn't changed that much, but one thing it does, Ichigo realized that it does, is it compressed everything down, which basically he could feel it like his life force wanted to just burst out of them, which allowed him to move at hyper speeds. I'd argue he wouldn't be like Ida fast. Well, the fastest people in My Hero are Deku, Ida, probably Shigaraki, I guess, if we're going to be honest. Bakugo's pretty fast when he wants to be. All Might was pretty fast. He'd probably be ranking somewhere up in the highest levels of speed. I won't know if I'd put him as the fastest, though. The problem here, again, though, is it's the draining of the life force. Now, the beauty of the awakened part of the quirk, though, is even though his life force would still be the fuel and could still drain him dry and kill him, it's condensed down, so he's able to use it. He has more finite control, so he doesn't have to use as much of it. Or he's not wasting it, I guess is the best term. The whole awakened quirk thing as well is he can choose whether or not he wants to go into the Bankai naturally. He could just use the weaker parts of his quirk, understanding how it feels different from his awakened quirk, or he could just go straight into his awakened quirk. But yeah, I think the big weakness of this quirk would be the life force drain. I think that's a given. But that is just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you like this quirk? Would you do something different for this quirk? Let me know in the comments below. But until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you folks later. Have a good one.